The Debt-Free Lifestyle by Dr. Andrew Dawson. Chapter 11. Principle G. Grateful to God, generous to others. Gratitude is the winning attitude that makes us generous to others and content with what we have. There is so much to be grateful for. Be grateful that you live in this time and age and not 100 years or 1,000 years ago. Be grateful that you live peacefully in this country and not in strife-torn countries or countries plagued by hunger and starvation or where people live in constant fear. Be grateful we are not refugees. Be grateful for your family, friends, and health. Be grateful you can read. According to statisticbrain.com, 775 million people worldwide cannot read. In their book, Fearfully and Wonderfully Made, authors Dr. Paul Brand and Philip Yancey wrote, "Remember the rich young leader, no matter how much wealth he had, he could not fly in an airplane, have ice-cold drinks or running water, sleep on soft mattresses, ride in a car, wear eyeglasses, listen to radio, watch TV, have surgery, turn on a light. If he was rich, then what are we?" To be grateful is to be thankful, to show deep appreciation for what we have, whether it be much or less. The degree of gratefulness in your heart is a measure of how much you trust in God's sovereignty, His wisdom, and His timing. The natural outflow of being grateful is generosity. When you fully trust God, you open yourself to experience God's miracles, for without faith, it is impossible to please God. Hebrews chapter 11, verse 6. You cannot control what happens to you, but you can control how you respond and react. We should be thankful for two reasons. Number one, God allows it to happen, and He has loving reasons why. Our attitude is to always be giving thanks to God the Father for everything, in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Ephesians chapter 5, verse 20. Number two, God can turn bad to good, and we know that in all things, God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. Romans chapter 8, verse 28. Why should we be generous? Because God repays and God rewards. Solomon says, "If you help the poor, you are lending to the Lord, and He will repay you." Proverbs chapter 19, verse 17. Jesus said, "And if you give even a cup of cold water to one of the least of my followers, you will surely be rewarded." Matthew chapter 10, verse 42. Warren Buffett said, "The happiest people do not necessarily have the best things. They simply appreciate the things they have." People will be generous when they're content. The Bible says, "Godliness with contentment is great gain." 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 6. Epictetus said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." Elizabeth Elliot, wife of missionary Jim Elliot, a woman of unbelievable faith in God, once wisely said, "God has promised to supply all our needs. What we don't have now, we don't need now." Godliness with contentment keeps us from becoming covetous and instead leads us to gratefulness, which is the attitude we need to keep ourselves level-headed and serene. When Typhoon Ondoy hit Metro Manila and damaged many houses, we gave each employee 5,000 pesos to assist them in case of loss. We also told them that if they did not sustain any loss, they could use the 5,000 pesos to help others. This way, they learned to appreciate whatever they had and extend the same to others. This gave them a picture of compassion. Charlie and Kathy were full-time missionaries who faithfully served God and generously gave of their time to help others. Since they did not receive fixed salaries but have to raise money for support, they didn't have enough to buy property. Yet they remained steadfast in their work for the Lord and tried to save as much as they could. After years of renting 7 different houses and apartments, Charlie and Kathy began to pray that God would give them a home of their own. In 2006, 3 years after renting a house owned by another missionary couple living abroad, they learned that the house would be put up for sale at $3.75 million. Charlie and Kathy thought, could this be the house for us? They prayed and asked their 4 children to pray with them. They committed themselves never to make foolish decisions. They sought the help of a godly and wise financial advisor who asked about their income, savings, loans, investments, and current monthly rent. They were given the following advice. Number 1, loan no more than 2 million pesos based on their income at the time. Number 2, monthly amortization should not be more than 5% of their current monthly rent. Otherwise, they would be stretched out financially. At that time, Charlie and Kathy's rent was $16,000 per month. This meant that they could afford only a monthly amortization of 16,800 pesos. Number 3, ask the bank to lower the interest rate. Before they met with their financial advisor, they had already approached 2 banks. One of the banks had calculated their monthly amortization to be 53,000 pesos. The other didn't bother entertaining them after learning they were missionaries. Charlie and Kathy believed that God would be providing for them directly. They wrote letters to ask for a soft loan from their financial supporters. 2 out of 8 couples responded with love gifts, specifying that these did not have to be repaid. The amount given to them, plus their savings, totaled 2.55 million pesos. Truly, this was a gift from God. They still needed 1.2 million pesos. A friend helped them secure a low-interest loan from a bank. The bank fixed its rate at 9% interest, which was very low at the time. The amazing thing was that the monthly amortization from their bank loan was 15,700, an amount 300 less than their rent. Charlie, Kathy, and their children jumped up and down with joy, completely overwhelmed by these blessings. They saw how the hand of God moved while they quietly waited for Him to provide. You may be saying, well, that story is quite incredible. Not many people are missionaries who have people willing to give them just like that. Well, here's another story. Carlos, a church worker, wanted to borrow money to buy a car. I advised him to instead pray and trust God to provide. He followed my advice. Later, he called to say, "Thank God, I'm now driving a car. Someone gave it to me." Carlos had a wife and 3 children. With his limited income, he could not pay back a car loan, but after trusting God to provide, he was given a car. The above 2 stories may be exceptions to the rule, but God does intervene in our lives, especially in the lives of those who walk closely with Him. Even David the psalmist said, "Wait patiently for the Lord. Be brave and courageous." Yes, wait patiently for the Lord. Psalm chapter 27, verse 14. When Esther and Eric were dating, they decided that, as a married couple, they would never borrow. Eric was then employed at a major bank in the country. Esther was an executive secretary at an office that paid well. Even as single adults, both of them were content to live with their parents and take public transportation. They set aside most of their income to save for their future together. They finally managed to save enough money for their wedding and a small house. Since they did not want to rent, they chose to live in a tiny old house while they continued to work hard and save for a bigger home. Soon, they had a son, and their needs as a family grew. This time, they bought a bigger house, which they later sold. With the proceeds of the sale, plus their savings, they bought another bigger house, which they paid for in cash. They continue to live in this house today and plan to move to a fourth bigger and better house. They have made sure that each time they moved, they would make money on the sale of their house. They live contentedly and are grateful to God for His provisions. Their son is following their example of good financial management. He is working hard, living frugally, and now saving money for his wedding. How were Esther and Eric able to improve their living standards without borrowing? The answer lies in their early decision to live a debt-free lifestyle. Esther and Eric are content and grateful people. They are also prudent, committed to buy only with cash, and avoid the headaches of borrowing. They have chosen not to borrow, not even from the bank where Eric works as a manager. This is countercultural to the way many young couples think and behave nowadays. Young professionals today want to have big houses, brand new cars, and huge appliances, taking out loans instead of saving up for these items. Instant gratification is the opposite of gratefulness for what we currently can afford. Wisdom tells us to be content with what God has provided for us in the present, because contentment brings great gain. Thomas à Kempis wrote, "Man proposes, but God disposes." Solomon, the wisest king who ever lived, said, "You can have many plans, but the Lord's purpose will prevail." Proverbs chapter 19, verse 21. He also said, "I have observed something else under the sun. The fastest runner doesn't always win the race, and the strongest warrior does not always win the battle. The wise sometimes go hungry, and the skillful are not necessarily wealthy. And those who are educated don't always lead successful lives. It is all decided by chance, by being in the right place and at the right time." Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verse 11. What the writer calls the right place and at the right time is the unknown factor, as some call it, the God factor. That is, encountering good people, good environment, and good fortune, because God grants these. We, His children, have His special attention because not a single sparrow can fall to the ground without your Father knowing it. Matthew chapter 10, verse 29. If we think back carefully, we may see many things we have that we can be thankful for. Being grateful shows our trust in God, believing or knowing that God causes everything to work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to His purpose for them. Romans chapter 8, verse 28. Our story. On top of all our buildings, we put the following sign in bold capital letters: "In God We Trust." Why? The year 1996 was a boom year for real estate. Whenever we launched a new condominium, buyers would flock to our office and aggressively compete with other buyers to reserve the choice units. Banks were giving us huge credit lines so we could borrow as much as we wanted whenever we wanted. Although our board director, Dr. Washington CSIP, founder of CSIP Gores and Valayo, advised us to be very careful because the economic bubble in Thailand looked like it might burst any time, we were cautious but at the same time bullish, hoping to take advantage of the very fast sales. A property along the main road of the Makati Central District was offered to us. The broker sent a pager message indicating the price. We received this message on Friday morning. Our executive committee met that same afternoon and decided to accept the offer immediately. I was going to inform the broker and was about to send our company's acceptance when it occurred to me that the seller could show the pager message to a competing buyer. So I thought I should just use my first name to identify myself. I sent the following message: Price for lot accepted. Andrew. On Monday, based on the appointment set, I was in the office of the president of the selling company. I was asked to wait because his boss, the chairman, was talking to another buyer. I waited the whole morning. During this time, the president came to me 3 or 4 times, asking, "Would you agree to this and that condition?" I said yes to all he wanted. About noon, the president told me that he was sorry, but the chairman had already concluded the deal with the other buyer. I had forgotten that there were 3 major real estate companies whose president or EVP had the same first name as mine, and my pager message might have caused the seller to contact the other Andrew. We lost the deal. I was very disappointed. Around the same time, another excellent property was offered. It had an unfinished building outside an exclusive village. The condominium market was so strong, we figured we could quickly finish the building and start selling in no time. We agreed to the seller's asking price without making any bargain. When the sellers hesitated, we offered to pay a price higher than what they asked for. But in spite of this, they backed out and decided not to sell. Not being able to buy those 2 properties, which were so far among the best properties we'd come across, devastated me. I asked God, "Lord, why did you not allow us to buy those 2 properties?" The Lord was silent. Again, I was very disappointed. Then I experienced the truth of what the prophet said. "For just as the heavens are higher than the earth, so my ways are higher than your ways, and my thoughts higher than your thoughts." Isaiah chapter 55, verse 9. 6 months later, the totally unexpected Asian financial crisis of 1997 that started in Thailand hit the entire world, and our country was not spared. From 1997 to 2007, or almost 10 years, the economy was bad. If we had bought those 2 or even just one of those properties, our net worth would have been eaten away by the interest expense we would have had to pay to keep the property for 10 long years without being able to sell. But because our money was not tied up, we hardly felt the impact of the 1997 crisis. We kept all our employees, and it was almost business as usual for us. Dr. Washington CSIP's foresight and warning about the impending economic bubble bursting in Thailand that would lead to the Asian financial crisis of 1997 had proved right. Knowing the crisis was coming, God in His loving kindness protected us from making a wrong purchase by supernaturally blocking the deal. Praise be to God. We had taken the position of being administrators of God's resources, and God honored our hearts by protecting His administrators. The financial crisis of 2007 also hardly affected us. A few days before the collapse of many American banks and financial institutions, Dr. Washington's CSIP hinted that something was afoot and warned us to be careful not to deal with banks that had financial vulnerabilities. Having experienced several divine interventions, our hearts are full of gratitude. The sign, "In God We Trust," on our buildings testifies that our success is not from us, but from God. Reflect. Number 1. List below the blessings in your life that you are grateful for. Can you also name any blessings in disguise? Number 2. How does covetousness or greed cause you to spend unwisely? How does contentment bring you great gain? Number 3. How can you cultivate a character of gratitude and contentment? As you continue to develop the winning attitude of gratitude in your life, what do you need to know about the essential ingredient for success? knowing this will help you create wealth. To find out more, let's turn to Principle H.